Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today I have the pleasure to show you the Makera Z1 Pro in all its colors. We have the full Mountie right over here. We even have the new Makera Dust Cyclone Lite Edition. But first of all, I want to go over what is going to be so different about the Z1 and the Z1 Pro. The Z1 is what I'm calling your regular motion system. It is using your regular steppers and lead screws just like a 3D printer. The Z1 Pro is also using steppers, but these are not the same as in the Z1. These are what they call a closed loop system. So there is a permanent monitoring on the stepper to see what is going on. What does that translate to? When your bit is hitting something and it for some reason loses steps, the system will know that something terribly is going wrong and it will engage an emergency stop. Also, the lead screws from the original Z1 are going to be replaced with your ball screws. Why ball screws? Ball screws are considered to be very precise. These are also supposed to have a lot less backlash than your regular lead screws. And that is basically it. So the complete motion system of the Z1 Pro is going to be different from the Z1. We have monitoring and ball screws, and in there we have what I call a dumb system. And if you're wondering what the standalone pricing is going to be for the Z1 Pro and everything that is included for the base model, that is going to be 1,500 euros. And for that you get the Z1 Pro with the closed loop steppers, and you get these two boxes. One is going to be the toolkit and the other one is going to be the essentials you need to get this machine up and running. So first of all, let's look at this. If we look in the inside, we got some double-sided tape. We have our manual probe that is already sitting in the Pro, a selection of materials to do some first projects on, a power cord, a 3D wired probe, and that is going to be to feel the sides of your model, 1/8" bit colors, a small sanding block, your plastic emergency stop, a USB cable. This is going to be to hook it up to an external device like a phone or tablet. Very nice to see a kit of lubrication, your spare limit switch, and your safety goggles. And all models also come with a toolkit. And inside you can find all the essentials you need for clamping and your first milling projects. This is what Makera used to deliver for the bit color installation. So every bit needs the little color, just like this one. This is the black little ring. This avoids the bit from moving into the spindle. And they switched out to this plastic one. Now we will see if this is going to be an improvement or not. Using this could be a little bit tiresome, and some bits were pretty hard to install with this amount of leverage. We also have a Makera branded screwdriver, and if we open up the back we can find some accessories with bits to do some maintenance. We can also see a saw for removing your projects, and we have a file right over here. In my opinion, this is a very nice starter kit to begin with. Now you have seen what the standalone Makera Z1 Pro is. We are also going to look at the additional extras you can purchase. First of all, this is going to be my personal favorite, and that is going to be the cleaning bundle. This is going to be the Carvera Z1 Pro together with the Cyclone Lite, and that bundle is going to come in at this pricing. You can see a video about it right over there. That box was filled with 3.5 kilograms of brass. It handled it hours and hours and hours of milling without an issue. Now this is the Lite edition. That means that there also is a Pro, or which I want to call a premium edition. So this is the premium, which has been made with an outer shell of aluminum. Interestingly enough, if we look at the tops, they are both the same. But when we look up top, we can see a definite difference. The Lite edition is ever so little bit smaller than the premium one. They have both the same mechanism, the same filter on top, and what looks like the same filter cartridges. Looking from the top, this is looking very similar. Opening up is with the same latches on the side. And then you can lift up the top like that. And in the bottom we have a giant hole. This is for our vacuum or the suction power to get all the chips out. The same is true for the premium one. This also gets out, and in the bottom you can see this is looking quite the same. So at the first glance there is zero reason why you would go for the premium instead of the Lite, except for the pricing, which is also not in the favor of the premium. The premium comes in at 620 euros, and then we have the Lite one over here, which is 360 euros. That's almost half as cheap as the premium one. So do yourself a pleasure and go with the Lite. It is half as cheap, and Right now, it looks very similar. Like always, the business is in the back of the Makera Z1 Pro. We have two ports right over here. One is going to be different because we are dealing with an extra optional feature. For that, right now, Makera has a port right here on the side, and there is a little latch that you have to remove. It's 4 bolts, and then you can hook up this dust extraction hose. Then you can put that hose right here in the back, and you will see that in the inside there is some very nifty stuff going on. Because you can see right there in the middle, it is splitting up in 2 sides. And that split is for one very cool feature, and that is going to be this right over here. This is a new bed for the Makera Z1 and Z1 Pro. What is going to happen is you are going to stick something on there. You will turn on this dust collection, and these ports are going to create a vacuum on your product, and that way you don't have to clamp anymore. Not only that, the Cyclone also has a port in the back for your regular dust extraction with the hose that you can screw in from the back, and then you have all sorts of extensions. This is going to be a brush for cleaning up the inside of your CNC for the more hard to reach places, or you can hook it up in the bottom, which is going to extract all the millings of your project. Now, fortunately, if you're an idiot like me, or you have been clumsy and you dropped your tool down the chute, you can remove this back panel. That is just 4 bolts in the corners, and then we have another panel, and then you open up the back completely, and with some persuasion, I can take out the tool that I dropped. This is going to be the motor for your bed movement, and we can see we have a USB port on the back of the motor and more wires than is normal on your stepper motor. So this is definitely going to be a closed loop stepper motor. And in the back we also can find these ports on the Z1 and on the back of the Cyclone machine, and that is going to be for this cable, so the machine has something to communicate with. So you just plug it in the back of these both machines, and it should be able to do everything that we need to do. Using it is very intuitive. If you leave it off, this will be acting automatically, but if you want to use it manually for your cleanup, you can just rotate the dial. And then the next thing, this is actually cheaper than the machine with the vacuum. This is going to be the 4th axis. Opening it up, it reveals a little bit of an explanation card. This is going to be a very short manual. Everything can be found on the Makera wiki. And underneath the foam, we have the magic. We got some engineering resin, very cool stuff to do some first tests on. It is very soft and very easy to mill. We have our locating dowel pins, and then we have our 4th axis itself. Now, interestingly enough, if we rotate the chuck, this should spin at a different speed if there is some kind of a harmonic gearbox in there, but when we spin it around, we can see this is 1-to-1. So this is a solid axle. We don't have any backlash thingies going on, so probably there are a bunch of bearings in there to keep it nice and stiff, but the motion system is just a 1-to-1 ratio with a reduction to the stepper motor. And then at this pricing, we also have the Master Bundle. That is going to combine all these things together. We have the CNC, the vacuum, and we have our 4th axis. Also, something worth considering is when you are completely new to the CNC world, it is handy to have some material on hand to do all sorts of testing before you spend your hard-earned money on the real deal. I can tell you one thing, if you fuck up, these are going to be very expensive. So Makera has this material kit. So this is a 50-piece material kit, and it houses everything you would commonly use to do your first CNC milling. The only thing left to do is to power it on and hook it up to our laptop. Using the Z1 Pro can be done either with the laptop or with your smartphone. Turning it on should be as easy as just flipping the switch. And if we poke around, we can see the ball screw. So no regular lead screws. This should be more precision. This is what it's going to look like when you are buying the basic setup. You have your corner bracket, you put your workpiece nice and close in this corner, and you clamp it down with these two right over here, and then you have 2 bolts clamping this corner down. Now you could add another one, but the kit only comes with 2 of these brackets. But this is a very secure way of doing your millings. But if you're fortunate or you bought the vise, this is how you install it. You need to remove a couple of bolts, then you can remove your waste board. You put in 2 locating pins, one over here and one over here. Then we take our vise and that should slide on it. like that. Then we need a couple of bolts. Loosen up all these bolts. Then you can slide them back. And the last two are hidden under this bracket. And now you can start to tighten them. There is some index right over here, and this slides over top and locks in. And just like that, your vise is in. The only thing you need to do right now is put this block in like that. Tighten these in the back. Then you need to tighten this one. And when you feel enough resistance, you tighten these. I always like to grab a plastic hammer. And just like that, make sure that everything is nice and snug. And we have installed the vise and clamped our material. So it's not that one of these is actually much better. This is just easier in my opinion to unclamp, put a new piece in and just redo the job. You can make a custom jig so you have an endpoint like this right over here. So your piece is always in the same place. So you just hit it to the end stop, you clamp it and you do your new work again and again and again and again. Now the thing is going to be with the basic setup, so with the manual clamping is you are subject to movement. Nothing on this is perfect and that is why I would prefer to put in a little vise like this. It is actually pretty affordable. This is going to be the price of this vise and I would say if there's one of these features you really want and you don't have a lot of money, the vise is going to be your number one. Not only that, we could see that for the vise we had to remove this little wasteboard. What is a wasteboard? That is going to be for your final millings. When your bit is reaching the end of your material, normally you should punch right through it by 0.1 millimeter or something like that, but it is going to hit your wasteboard and that is going to leave you these grooves. Now with this you can actually avoid that. Let me show you how. For that I actually need to loosen them back again, and if you take these out and you look up close you can see there is a little ridge. You take your material and your material slots in like this. So right now if I clamp up this workpiece, give it some love taps, you can now see we have a hollow space. That means that if your bit wants to punch through the material, it has all the room to do so. We are not going to hit the bats. Now the downside is going to be if you miss yourself, you will be hitting these clamp blocks right over here and you get two of these spare ones. Now close looking at these what I thought spare ones and these up here, these are missing the slots for your material to slot in. So these will probably be your flush mounts and they will replace it and give you a full flat face. Looking a bit closer to the machine, this is going to be your spindle, your handle, and this is going to be your quick swap. We can see the machine actually came with a little bit of a filler, I would say. Putting in a new bit is just as simple as pulling this lever, inserting your new one and then just releasing like that. And that's where the collars come in. These collars are your end stop. This is going to avoid you pushing in the bit way too much or when it's milling that the bit wants to get into your head. On the side we have our probe. This is going to be a laser and your probe. So what it is going to do, it will be touching your object and that will be your Z offset. And this probe is standard included in the base model and up. What we also can see is a camera in the corner, accompanied by an LED on the left side and an LED on the right side. Something I noticed immediately is going to be this shroud on top. We have some sort of a filter sitting right over here and the first version of the Makera Z1 actually misses this. So this is just a piece of foam and this is the same filter like your car. The more surface area you have, the more air is able to rush in this motor, cool your motor, and it doubles as a secondary blower to blow away your chips. So this, in my opinion, is a massive upgrade on the Z1 and the Z1 Pro. We also have a status LED, your stop and emergency stop. And if you push it, you can see the status LED has changed. Now the lack of a screen on the Z1 and the Z1 Pro is a little bit of an issue because right now we have no way of trying to get the emergency stop of this CNC. For that you will need your phone app or your laptop. What we also have standard included on any Makera is going to be this remote emergency stop. So you don't have to rush to your printer. You can also scoot this aside a little bit closer to where you are sitting if you are using it next to a desk so you can easily smack this red button when you hear the terrible noises. And it is just as easy as plugging it in the back of the CNC in the correct port. Also something super cool, you cannot miss where you are putting this cable. This is a 2-pin cable and if I look in the back there is only one connector that has room for 2 pins. Then you also have a 3-pin and a 4-pin and it is for your auxiliary systems like your vacuum cleaning. Now it is hooked up and when I press the button, the machine goes in an emergency stop. Now, if we turn it back out, the same issue persists. There is no way to unlock it unless we are going through the phone app and your laptop, which is the next thing that we are going to do. So right now we need to add the machine to the software. For that we need to go to device. We are going to use setup by Bluetooth, select it. Then you need to select your home Wi-Fi network. And I would say that Wi-Fi is working, but yeah, it ain't. And that is actually the same issue I had with the first Z1. That one refused outright to connect with my network, and the reason is my network SSID has a space between the naming. And this is probably not running the latest edition of the firmware, because my Z1 now perfectly connects to the Wi-Fi and this isn't. So let me fangle around with some stuff to update it and get it to latest firmware, and then let's look if the Wi-Fi is working like it should. We are properly connected to the Makera Z1 Pro after the update. Not gonna lie, this has been a hassle to get to this point. On the right, we have a few options we can select. We have Y- that is going to move our bed, Z- is going to move the spindle, and then we have our X-axis that we can move all separately. And if we press this button, you can select in how many millimeters you want to move them. We also have a button right over here. This is going to be for your webcam. You can make it bigger, and you can see right now, this is going to be your webcam. It is a little bit choppy, it's not too bad, but once you start the milling, it is going to get worse. And the reason is this machine is running on a potato. We are using an ESP32 board that is doing the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, and all the connection between the Z1 and our laptop. The ESP32 is amazing for all your networking and running code. The only thing it's not good at is running your video encoding, which means that anything above VGA quality, and I'm getting old, that is way past 20 years back when our first phones used VGA, anything above that will give you a little bit of a choppy experience, and especially when you are doing all your movements, because the ESP32 is giving you all the commands on the display on Makera Studio, and that connection is going back and forward, and that is already taking up a bunch of the bandwidth, and that also means that your video will start to get choppy once you get good and well into this project. So it's a little bit of a downside of the Makera Z1. We are running it on a potato, but unless you are prepared to change that for something else, it is going to be what it is. Also, right now, if we press the emergency stop button, it will show you a warning on the screen. So now we are going to try and unlock it. And whoopsie, it is still turned in. So we are still in an emergency stop. You have to rotate it out to get the knob out. So now we can unlock it back. But the problem is on the screen, that message now is gone. So how do we fix it? Right over here, we have the unlock button. Everything now popped back up. And when I push the home button, everything should be homing nicely. You can see the controller is completely replaced with Makera Studio, and for your cam you will need to be in this window. And here we can see on the right we have our Makera Z1. We can choose our spindle collet diameter. Right now standard is 3.175 millimeters. We can select our materials, which is composite, epoxy tooling boards. We are using this material type. And now we can see that the materials are correct to the materials that are in the CNC. Scrolling moves this window. When we press shift and middle mouse button, you can rotate around. And when you only use your middle mouse button, you can pan your vision like that. Makera now also has a platform they call Makerables. It's a little bit like your general store or market where you can put everything you have made yourself for other people to make. So for testing, I will be using this right over here to use on my epoxy boards. So let's open this in Makera Studio. So right over here, we can actually pick what we want. Do we want an NC file, a CAM file, or a model file? And the only thing I did was just go through the steps. We also have a preview function. Let's see what that is about. And that brings us to this window, and we have a play button. And now we can see what it is actually going to do to our block. So this is already a massive improvement to the previous Makera software they had. Now we can actually kind of see what it is going to do. All right, I've done a bunch of work. We can see right over here that this is going to be my toolpath. Also, while we are on the Makera Studio, oh my God, is it so much better than the crap we used to get from Makera. Getting toolpaths, so we are right now in cam. This is going to be the thing I have made up. We have 7 different tools for what we are going to do. And when I press preview, I can see all the tools we are going to use. If I press play, I get to see what the fuck is going on. This is day and night better than what we used to see with Makera. And here you can see if anything is going to get wrong or not, and if it mistakenly forgot something to mill out. And right now and all the time I have set all this stuff, I can see that everything is looking amazing. So I'm expecting the same thing coming out of that thing. It tells me that the probe is dead. Alright, great. So I'm going to tap it a few times. This is the same shit I had with all my other Caveras. You need to trigger it a few times, then say, nope, it's not dead. Let's do the scanning. Alright. Probe it again. The laser is working. Yeah, this time it took it. So right over here on the screen we can see this is what the system is expecting on the current position, or what is going to be anchor 1. We have a 0 by 0 offset, and this should be a perfect fit. However, if you look at the laser, this is going to be the spot where our material stock should be, and our stock is sitting right over there. This is a problem. Right now, as you can see, I have jogged it on the corner of our material stock with the laser. So the current position, then I do apply the settings, and you can see that the point jumps around. So right now, if I home the system and I say scan now, it should now show me on the correct space where my object should be. And indeed, this is looking a lot better. And here you can see that we now actually have the correct point of where we are going to mill. Now, in my opinion, this is not a problem if you do all your millings at the same spot and you don't move your material around. But what if you want to change your object to the other side? Then you have to do the same thing. And what happens then is you don't have the absolute guarantee that your stock is sitting at the exact same place. And therefore we have the 3D wired probe, and that should give me the absolute certainty that my object is always in the same spot. So what we need to do is remove this probe, put it back in the holder like that. Right here we need to connect our USB like this. This tippy toe is going to be the thing that will probe our surface, and in the same port like that. And we have installed our 3D probe. Right here in this menu I need to press probe, change, and then 3D probe. Now it will check if everything is working. Now I need to confirm the probe is in. Now these front corners are not going to work because we are already at the end of the bed. Alright, interestingly, we have set our probing at the top right corner. You would think that with the material we have, it would calculate where the bottom left is going to be. No, it is just going to say that your corner is now all the way in the back, which is super weird. Why the hell would they do that? So right now, if you're going to probe it anywhere besides the corner that your origin is made in, it is not going to work. So what I need to do now is scoot this block a little bit more back so the probe has the reach to do all the offset thingies, and then try again, because this ain't working, chief. Now you can see with probing the left bottom corner that it is effectively doing what we want it to do. Now to make sure, I'm going to put in the laser probe and we are going to do a scan. So laser is in, and we can also see that the laser is it nailed the corner. So this is already for me a visual confirmation that the probing is on point. I don't know about you guys, but this is looking pretty spot on. All right, enough yapping. We need to prepare 5 bits. These are all the bits that we are going to need. Standard delivered, those will be the bits. And when you get the essential kit, which is going to be this box right over here, you are getting almost any bit that they offer in a small quantity. These are going to be all the bits that we are going to use. So for that you need these colors. These are by size. This is for the 3.175 or the 1/8 inch bits. This is going to be the new bit installer tool. We have a button right over here, which we can move the spindle freely. In the bottom, we have a little poker thing that goes in like that. So we have our poker sticking out. You install a bit that's worn out or you want the color from, put it in this hole. You push the button, just like that. You align it a little bit. And now if you turn it, you push out the bit out of the collar. When you're done removing it, you put this back in the hole. And now it's time to install a new collar. We grab our new collar, put it in the hole. The bit we want to use with casing and everything, that goes in like this. We push the button, align it, release it. And now the only thing you need to do is rotate it. And right over here we have numbering going on and we need to adjust it to 12. That's gonna be it. Release it back like that. And we have our installed collar. So this has been the last one. The only thing I can say is trying to remove this. You do this with 2 fingers, otherwise it gets a little bit stuck because this metal thing is going to poke a hole in your cap. So this has become a nice tool for installing your collars, and I would say a step up from what we used to have. And in case you forgot it, they also have the nice wiki where they show you everything that you need to know. So what I like to do is put them in order. This is tool number 1, tool number 3, and we have tool number 4. And the reason I do it that way is because the machine is going to prompt us which tool we need to install, and it will call out a number. And if you put them in the right numbering, you just have to pick up the tool. It says it's now tool number 3 and you pick the 3rd box in the row, and then you know you got the right tool. So together with the preview and putting them in a nice order, that way you don't miss yourself on taking the wrong tool. That, or you print or you mail a little box where you put the numbering on it. The choice is yours. Be creative. We have all the tools in the world to be efficient, and this is one I really like. And this is going to be the setup. We have our hose on the side and we have our hose in the back. This is actually not a suction port. This is going to blow air through the system. The part that blows goes on top in this port, and this right over here is the suction port that goes in the bottom. We got our power and we have our data cable, and that gets connected in the middle port of the CNC. Then we set it at off or auto, and if we turn it, we got our manual override. Right now when the status LED we can see 1 light flashing. That means we need to install tool number 1. So let's remove the probe. This sits in the holder on the side. Let's grab our first box, and on the software we can see it needs tool number 1, which is going to be the 3.175 by 42mm bit. Installing the tool just like this, and here we go. Right now we can see the color changed and the vacuum is running. Alright, I have pressed the reset button and we can see that everything is working perfectly fine. What we also can see is a bunch of that resin is just sticking all over the place. You can see it right over here. It is just so statically charged. It is clinging to everything, the plastics, the metal, and this is going to dirty up your machine real bad. But for that, Makera has a different tool. They call it the Z1 Ionizer Module. For that, we need to move the head all the way to the left, remove these 2 bolts. It indexes on the side like that, and the cable gets plugged in above our laser pointer. And if the system actually works, it will pull out all the static from all the machining out of the air. It will blow through the spindle. That's why it's in the air path of the spindle, and that should make it so that everything that is getting milled doesn't have that static charge and won't cling to the sides of this machine. For that we need to enable a setting, and that's why I had to press the emergency stop, because right now I need to redo everything. Let's try it out, shall we? Normally you shouldn't touch anything, and right over here the anti-static that we just need to enable by this button. So right now we are doing a new milling path, and it seems to be working better. Although we do still collect some material on the side, it seems to be less bad than before. Anti-static did a lot better. We can see there is definitely a lot less sticking going on. However, when we look from the other side, yes, there's still a lot of stickiness going on. We can also see that the status LED changed. It is now blinking 2, which means we need to insert tool number 2. Let's get this one back in the correct slot. Take number 2, and that is going to be a 2mm bit. Time to put in tool number 2, which in this case is a tomb. I pressed the stop button because apparently my tool is not poking through the material, and that is the whole reason why we are using a clamp in the first place. So that means we need to adjust the, I call it slicing, to poke a little bit more through the bottom surface, and it is something you can do when you are pressing a button. Just look it up. So that is what I'm going to do, because right now none of those are poking through. All right, second attempt. Now, because we can no longer probe in the space we were probing before, I have set the offset. So right here, auto Z height probing before machining, the offset to -5, and this red dot right over here is our new probing location because this material already has been removed. All right, time for tool number 3. There is very minimal crap on the wall, so the ionizer actually is doing the thing. Also on the visor we have some accumulation of this resin material, but let me tell you something, if the ionizer isn't in here, the whole thing is completely plastered, and you have seen something a little bit in the beginning, and I stopped it because I knew it would completely explode and cling to the top lid. Right now it is actually fine, a little bit of a vacuuming, and everything is nice and dandy. So the ionizer, it does its thing. The only thing I need to do right now is do the last pass again, because also for this pass I didn't do the 1mm extra to poke actually through the object. So that means that we will have to do the last pass all over again. Oh well. My probe in this machine is a little bit finicky, and this isn't the first time. The probe and the regular Z1 and the probe and the air was also a little bit finicky, and I found out that the contact making of this probe isn't always that great. And isn't that the most important feature of this machine? I think so, and this one seems to be more finicky than all the rest, because this is 2 times it's saying the probe is dead. Well, I can see it flash, but very inconsistent. All right, so the probe is working again. What did I do? I removed the little probing thingy, the brass piece that's inside, and have done the finest drip of a contact cleaner. And now it is making contact again, which is basically a very simple system. We have a spring behind it, and then we have a little ring on the inside, and when it touches each other, that is the moment that the thing knows that, yeah, we have reached the bottom. So by using a little bit of that contact cleaner, we now have a proper connection in the probe, and there we go. The final run, and this time hopefully we are going past that last little flint. So let's grab our little saw, and just like that we have our finished workpiece. So let me do a quick sanding pass for this piece, because I want to do some more advanced milling. And for that we need to put it on some sides so we can do the final groove that is meant to be in this thingy. And this is how our workpiece looks like right now. We have 0 defects, and we even have a slope right over here, which is massively cool. We have used a bunch of bits, and one of them was a ball nose, and I have to say this is buttery smooth. Some step downs, clearances, we have some naming going on, and then we have our sides that we have milled out. This is looking like $1,000,000. This is right now our new clamping situation. I can tell you one thing, this is going to be very hard to do without the 3D probe. All right, it's time for a little bit more advanced of an operation. I want to mill it like this. That means that we want to mill features right over here. For that, we will use the 3D probe, and I'm going to use this as an end stop, shove it against it like that. Here we go. Our probing. Nice. So we have our work point perfectly adjusted. All right, so we have done the computations. Let's do a quick scan to see if we are ballpark or not. Yeah, we seem to be off ever so slightly. So let me do the 3D probing again and see if we can improve on this. All right, I have been trying to 3D probe it, and every time I scan it now, it doesn't seem to align with the workpiece. I think we're going to find out. So let's try to put in my V-carve bit and let's see what is actually going to happen. If we're going to ruin it, then we ruin it. And you know that there is some logic instability, let's call it, in the Makera Studio right now. Only one way to find out. All right, so I stopped it, and what I can see, and maybe you can see it this way too, the line is not in the middle. We are about a millimeter off, which is what the laser pointer was showing. So the laser was correct. I have no clue why the 3D probe is not working. Who would have thought that resetting the machine and my laptop or the software would fix the issue? It is, I wouldn't call it perfect. Let me show you. For some reason it nicked the corner, but what I really wanted, the slot in the middle, it is perfect now. So yeah, 3D probing, if it works, it is actually pretty cool. Let's have a quick look how this showed up, and what we can see is it did very good. As you can see, I made a whole mess of this machine, and this time it is on purpose. I want you to look very good at this corner, what is going to happen over there, and what is going to happen right there in these corners. We are dealing with a bunch of clever engineering, and I'm going to show you what just happened. As you could see, the sides all blew away. Also right here in the corners, it all blew away, and even the build plate, I could feel some air. But instead of telling you, let's smoke it up and let's show you. And look what happens when I turn it on. The same is happening on this side. We also have an airstream going on. Same for the corners. We have air right here in all the corners. We have slits right over there. We have slits in the back. We have a slit underneath the bed, and that is all pushing the material around so it can slide down and into the vacuum. So this is going to work really, really well with the boards we have used right now. So everything like these engineering resins, woods, plastics are all going to do very good. I have my suspicions on aluminum and all of that it's not going to work because it is fairly heavy material and this is very, very light. What we also can see a bit with all the testing is that the faultiness, let's call it like that, with the ionizer is pretty good. It is not perfect, but I can tell you one thing. If you would do it without it, the whole damn thing is covered with the fine millings of the epoxy board. So it is a lot better than it was without. I also really like what they did right here with the dust vacuum, because I can see there are some of these millings sitting on that cotton filter, and this is so much better than the stuff we got with the regular Makera Z1 or the pre-production unit. The overall fit and finish of this unit compared with the pre-production model is also a lot better. For instance, the lid now closes without too many hassles. It is not binding anymore like we had with the Z1 pre-production unit. It is also super hard to spot any of the defects I had with the regular Z1 or the pre-production unit, except for some dust going on. the clarity of the plastic is really well. So whatever problem they had to get this nice and clear is well out of its way. I can only say that right now the fit and finish and the quality of the top lid is very nice. Also, when we open it up, this hasn't changed with the Z1. We have this sound. This is just so you would know, this is the top position and you can stop pushing. What also changed with the pre-production unit, and this one is going to be this button. It was very easy when you want to open this up to touch the button and to cause an emergency stop. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing, but right now it is really hard. You really have to push it, and the button needs to be past the plastic housing in order to cause an emergency stop, which is a lot better for your accidental hits like this. So I would call this issue fixed. The probe on the Z1 also got a little update. Unfortunately, I had to open up this port right over here to clean it up and do some contact cleaning, so this probe was working again like it should. The dust collector light also got an update. This is half as cheap as the premium. It's a little bit smaller, but the capacity of the bin stays the same. So why would you pick the more expensive one over the cheaper one? I actually don't know, except for this being a metal casing. What finished this whole system up is going to be the double hosing. We have one for some compressed or forced air, which is going to blow all the chips down straight into the collector. And the second hose on the Cyclone is just going to suck it all up. That way you don't have a vacuum, which was also a little bit of an issue because it was pretty well sealed. We got a little bit of a vacuum inside of that chamber, and right now we are pushing air and sucking it out at the same time. So this is really well thought of. The emergency stop, they changed it out for plastic. Since the Z1, we could see that the air had the aluminum one. Quality wise, except for being plastic, I don't see the problem why this should be a bad thing. While I was very happy to see the change and I can see the thought of why this would work very well, I could also see that the whole damn thing is flexing quite a bit when your bit doesn't want to go through the color. So is this going to be a matter of time before it cracks on you, or is this good enough and did they test enough? I think time will only tell. I do want to say is that the design behind it is a lot easier than we had with the older system. The vise seems to be of a very decent quality. All your workpieces are fitting nice and sturdy. You can change out the blocks if you ever cut too far into your objects and you need to replace these shells. I also had my first experience at 3D probing. While this is very nice when it works, I also had one instance that I had a 1mm offset for some reason, and the only thing that fixed it is going to be a hard reset. So before you are committing to anything of your work, make sure that you use this laser and you scan your surface to see if you have an issue or not. It's a free tool, please use it, because if there's a $100 piece of metal sitting there and for some reason the CNC decides to put some offset on it, you're going to have a bad day. Then also the screwdriver. It is very handy. It is nice to the touch. We have a metal nut on top. You can pull out your bit, and when you turn off the bottom, you get greeted with all sorts of tools, just like these right over here. So a very handy tool. It houses the most common tools you would need for operating your CNC and removing some of the freshly milled pieces, because there is also a saw in there. Very nifty tool. And while you get a nice box full of the tools with everything you need to start your first project, even if you are getting the entry unit, I still think it's a step down from everything else we have seen. The other units came with a nice plastic box to stow it away, and right now we are dealing with a cardboard box and an insert that is all made of, let's say, quite flimsy plastics. Also, our bed materials are made of hard wood. They are no longer using the cardboard they used on the Carvera. This is a very dense and hard spoil board. So if you want to clamp stuff on this, this is going to be much more secure if you want to clamp down anything without having all the cardboard warping around, and probably also going to benefit our tolerances. So all in all, the Makera Z1 Pro is looking like a very attractive deal. If you are going to get the base model, I am fairly confident that this unit is going to give you everything you need. So the only thing we haven't done in this video so far is going to test the spindle motor to its fullest capacity, like we have done on the regular Z1, and if the motion system with the closed loop stepper is actually of any value. So before we close it off, let's mount some aluminum in there and push it to its limits. I have a 3mm aluminum 6061 sheet in there and a spicy tune, and we are going to try and bring down the Makera Z1 Pro to its knees and see what is going to happen. Now, this is not the 6mm bit we have used in the Z1 versus Carvera Air video. We know this is a 200 watt spindle. It is not going to perform like the Air, and the 6mm bit should stay out of the Z1. That is my opinion, except for woods and plastics, maybe all of that, but let's be honest, most of us are going to mill aluminum and metals in these because we finally have a machine that is capable of doing so, or so they claim. So just like we thought, this is doing very well with the stock settings. What do you think about doubling the speed? Here we go, double the speed. And would you look at that? It does not care. This is 1000 millimeters a minute and it's eating it for breakfast. So if you want to switch out your bits, there is one thing you will need, and those are going to be these replacement collets. They already provide us a key to remove it. And here you can see the differences. Because of our bad decisions, we can now work with these. And just to give you a comparison, this is the bit we used before. Now the laser probe comes with replacement thingamajiggies. Now, shh, you have nothing to worry about. Oh yeah, the moment of truth. This should bog it down, and I'm quite certain it is. The Z1 did, so this should do just the same. There's actually nothing to double. It still sits at double the speed. What the hell? Why is this doing so much better than the other stuff? I don't get it. Well, the reason I think it's still doing it because we are cutting in aluminum, and the last time we did the major testing on the regular Z1, the pre-production unit, we did it in copper. And copper, my friend, is definitely another beast. If we can do the exact same in this chunk of copper, I think you guys were right, and my pre-production unit Z1 Pro definitely had some issues. And there we go. This is what I was expecting. Now, it wasn't because of the closed loop steppers. Not sure if I need to be happy, but yeah. The good thing is all the problems we had with the Z1 pre-production unit, so the bogging down and just continuing to do so, is no longer happening. It is definitely not because of the closed loop steppers. It is just because the spindle said 0. Which is a good thing. So definitely the power is unchanged. I would say we are about the same, but if we revert back to our 1/8 bit inch bits and we are using aluminum, it is just ramping through it. So I would say that if you are your regular hobby tinkerer like me and you are being considerable, not an ass like I am right now, then with the stock bits, nothing should really be a problem in my opinion. Just avoid the 6mm bits, that's all I'm trying to say. So very happy to clear that up for you guys. We can definitely see that the Z1 Pro has all the features it needs to be absolutely safe. So that's gonna be it for today's video. If you want to see more about the Makera Z1 Pro, make sure that you are subscribed. Maybe consider becoming a member for only $2 a month. You can join this baboon with all his behind the scenes goofing around. And right now we also have a new feature for the real man of culture. If you are interested in that, there will be links down below. So in my opinion, we are dealing with a very interesting package, and I think what we see right now, the vacuum and the CNC, those are going to be the two main points that I would invest in if I could pick. And if you have money left, the Vice is also a very good addition to this setup. And if your 3D probe is actually reading correctly, that is also a very handy feature if you want to do millings on every side of your object. For the rest, it is up to you if you are interested in any of these objects. If you want to purchase any of these, there will be links down below, and those will help me directly at no cost to you guys. That's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and guys, I see you in the next one.